All right. All for One, episode 7. I'm here with my good friend, Greg Direnzo.
Yeah, buddy.
Direnzo.
Hey.
Man, I hope we have some fun on this. Man, we had a lot of good times back 06, 07, 08. We spent a lot of time together.
That's true.
Probably more time than you wanted.
Sometimes, but it was fun. But it was a lot of time, a lot of work, and a lot of fun times.
Yeah.
So for sure.
Yeah.
For
We
sure.
got some wins in there, which was cool.
A lot of wins.
Yeah.
A lot of wins. Yeah.
So to kind of, if you don't know who Greg is, which he's world famous, so you should.
Yeah.
Yeah. Greg and I actually got together, kind of background story. 2006, I was kind of starting to do well as an amateur. I was dating a girl, Ashley Filick at the time, who you were working with.
Correct.
And her dad, Jim, was like, hey, you should look into Greg Direnzo. And I'm like, I'm good. I run. But I did. Yeah.
You were fit and round.
Yeah. If a circle was a perfect shape, I was in perfect shape. But I remember I called you and, we were talking and I was, this young kid from Oklahoma and I was like, you answered the phone. You're like, hey, how you doing? I was like, whoa. And I remember one of the first things you said, it was like, I'm not really that interested in people who want to walk around with their shirts off at the races. And in the back of my head, I was like, I don't want to do that. But secretly, I just wanted to look cool. But that was kind of how it got kicked off.
Yeah, that's it. And we talked for a little while, kind of got on the same page. And then we met for the first time out in Georgia.
Taylor Johnson was another kid that you worked with. Yeah.
And that was Germany. We called it Germany, Russia out there.
It felt like it.
It was in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah. I remember, I think I met you like the first day and then we rode, we did, I don't know, like 30s and whatever. Mm-hmm. And then like, you just made us run and like do this circuit. And you didn't tell us when it was going to end. And I was like, it seemed like it lasted 4 hours. It probably was like 45 minutes, but
it probably, I don't remember it, but I know it was intense.
Yeah.
Because everything we did was intense.
Yeah.
But it was a lot of what we did, was a lot of mental training as well, is to see how far you can push.
Yeah.
Even before we even really got into the program, it was a test to see how bad did you really want to be what you want it to be.
Yeah.
So that was a challenge for everybody that I worked with and stuff, and for everybody that every trainer should work with, is to really see how vested and how bad you want it when you say you want it. Yeah. And a lot of kids don't.
Yeah, they say they do.
Yeah.
Until it's 4 p.m. and you're ready to puke.
but even the non-difficult things, like the things that
all the little things that add up.
Right.
Yeah.
That little just doing what's normal, people think is something that's going to help them get to the top. Like just going to work out, just eating okay, just going to bed like on time, or just going on the motorcycle and riding. Like those things are what everybody does.
Yeah.
If you're not doing that, you shouldn't even be doing it.
Yeah.
We had a discussion today, and I know we'll get into me being at Greg Albertson's, but we had a discussion today about, things that are just normal, people now think are helping them excel.
Yeah. Yeah.
But those are just the normal things. Like you're getting up, you're eating, you're training, you're going to bed early, whatever, and for whatever sport. But so is everybody else across the country. What are you doing to achieve greater success? What are you doing more than they're doing? That's what turns people into professionals. Yeah,
it's a little bit of this mentality is like, oh, I did my job, and you expect like a little bit of an applause, but really you just did what you were supposed to be doing.
You just did the norm.
Yeah. So we'll get more into that, but I know you pretty well, right? And I know a little bit of your backstory, but I want to throw. How old are you? Like 400 years old, right?
And what?
400?
404.
Okay, 404. Going on 405.
I'm almost
there. But you used to race. This blew me away. I remember. I think maybe I came to your house in Illinois one time, and you showed me this picture of you. You were 241, and you had this sick mullet coming out of the back of your helmet. I think you were racing in East Rutherford or something, like an amateur day, supercross or something like that. Blew me away. I mean, I think when we first started working together, you were shortly off some bodybuilding.
Correct.
You were jacked. There's no, I had no idea that you were ever on a dirt bike, ever.
Yeah, I've actually started racing. I think it was 1975 or 76.
You're super old.
I'm really old. I told you I'm 404.
I don't think you've aged though.
No, I would still look good.
Yeah.
It's my fitness.
Yeah.
But it was 75 that we got our first motorcycles. It was an MR50 and an XR75. Rode around on those for a little while, and then went to CR80s. And been racing ever since 76 or 77. Started racing up until I think 1991 or so was the last year that I raced. And
I was born in 90.
Yeah. I had to pass the torch. I knew you were coming.
241 couldn't go on with anybody else.
And that's so ironic and so funny because it was, my number was, growing up, it was number 4.
Yeah.
For whatever reason, I have no idea why, that was my favorite number. It was number 4, and then 4 was taken. So my number eventually became 241 as an amateur. And then when I turned expert back in the day, it was amateur and expert, novice, amateur, expert. My number went to 41.
Yeah.
And that Meadowland Supercross at Giant Stadium, it was 241. And then the other picture, I don't know if you remember, was Daytona Supercross, where I was 41.
Yeah.
So it's such a coincidence, and it's so ironic.
Crazy.
Yeah.
Crazy. Yeah. So whenever you're, growing up early, I imagine that you racing, but just what I know about your football history, how did you manage, and this is something I'm interested in, just small kids. I've got a really active kid. He loves bicycling. He, sees me do what I do, wants to do that. But I really want to see him involved in other sports as well. So how did you, which I assume you excelled in everything you did because you're just the most interesting man in the world. The Dos Equis guy was after you.
Yeah. Chuck Norris, actually, I passed the torch to him. So.
Do you know what happened when Chuck Norris hit puberty?
What happened?
It died.
That's what happened.
Yeah.
I knew it's gone nowadays.
Yeah.
It's really gone nowadays.
It's not the blockers.
It's not the blockers.
It was Chuck Norris. I derailed myself there. Anyway. So if we do go the motorcycle route, I do want to continue to do other things. Just I want him to be well-rounded. I was very kind of uni focused, which served me well, but I really want him to do a lot of things and to do them well, which I think that you did well because you ended up at Nebraska playing football. How'd that go?
Yeah. Growing up, fitness has always been in my genes. My father was a surgeon. Mom was a nurse. So health and wellness has always been part of the family. Dad had a gym in the house. And I remember from as early as I can remember going down to the basement and working out with him.
Just 700 bicep curls?
About 800. 800. But it was just always part of what we did. And growing up, that was just an innate behavior that I had just to be athletic because it's what I knew. It's the only thing. And I played baseball, soccer, wrestling, football, almost every sport growing up except for basketball. I never liked basketball. Too much running. For whatever reason, too much running.
You don't like running, do you?
I don't know.
You can run like lightning.
I'm fast.
Yeah. I remember 4th of July, you were making us do a workout and it was over and you come running at us with Roman candles, and I was running as fast as I could, and it was like I was walking.
I remember that. That was at Johnny Murphy's house.
Yeah.
We were there, and we just got done with a workout, and it was 4th of July, and there's another earlier backstory with the attic and stuff from there. But yeah, it was some Roman candles that we had hidden. You guys were coming back and decided to see how fast you guys can run, and it wasn't that fast.
I mean, I'm not that fast of a runner, but man, you're for sure the athleticism is amazing.
And I think a lot of that came from starting at an early age and playing multiple sports just to develop overall athleticism. That's one of the, I think that things that are going away in today's society. Everybody's so focused and so linear into what they're doing in their sport, which is good and bad. It's good because it really kind of laser focuses you to excel and get to the next level, maybe a little bit faster. But I think it hurts overall athleticism. And with all of the football players that we train, with all of the basketball players, with all of the soccer players that we train, most of them have all played multiple sports growing up. And their stories, you can go on YouTube and listen to some of the NCAA coaches of Big Ten schools and stuff. And what they do is they look for athletes that have played multiple sports. Because if you're a great athlete and you have athleticism, they can teach you to play a position, whatever sport it may be.
Yeah, as long as the athleticism's there, they can,
The athleticism has to be there, but it's also a learned behavior. It's something that you have to do over and over, and just like riding a motorcycle. I mean, you have to play different sports, get your body conditioned to different planes, different angles, different motion, different explosiveness, activities, and concentration as well. That's a big key for playing multiple sports. It helps you develop not only physically but neurologically as well.
Yeah. It's. I mean, I played, coach pitch, basketball, little stuff like that. But I think 5th grade on, I was motorcycle, which, it kind of got serious enough for me that it kind of needed to go that in a way. But just what you're saying, I think about, so many athletes that I see, motocross guys that have been doing it for so long. You can see, like, if you look at them all of their hips look the same. We all have this kind of weird, like, stance that we do because our hips are so tight. I remember Hannah the first time, she was like, hey, why do motocross guys stand like that? And I was like what? And then I started looking, and like, we all have this weird, like, cockeyed thing that we do with our hips just because we've been so
that's a
focused,
range of motion,
hyper focused on one thing. So I guess kind of coming back to it, I really want my son to develop overall, my daughter as well, overall in everything. So I'm curious, did football always land at the top, or is it something that you just naturally excelled at, or how did you mix all of this together?
Growing up, I didn't have a target sport. It was when it's baseball season, we played baseball. When it was football season, we played football. When it was wrestling season, we did wrestling. In the off season of any of those sports, yes, we rode motocross and we did that, but it wasn't. There was no one major priority of what we did because I just enjoyed playing every sport. In the summertime was a little bit different because everything kind of school was down. There wasn't as much emphasis on travel teams and club teams. Or, back then it was, you played what you played during the season of school.
And then it's over.
And then you move on to the next, where now you play baseball 12 months a year. You play football. You train 12 months a year. There's spring ball. There's, camps. There's summer camps. With every sport nowadays, it's 12 months a year. And especially in warm climates like Florida, Oklahoma, you can play every sport all year long.
That's one thing that I'm kind of concerned about, is that it gets, you get hyper-focused on one discipline very early, but the burnout factor of that worries me. Just, if just say my son August happens to be good at baseball, all of a sudden we're traveling every weekend, we're doing baseball things every single day. Like, by the time he gets to be 18 years old, is he still going to love baseball?
As long as he loves it and it's his passion, he's never going to burn out.
Yeah, that's true.
Like, if it's a helicopter mom or dad, or if they're soccer mom or soccer dad or whatever, and they're the ones that are pushing it, then the kid's gonna push back, and he's gonna go, oh, this isn't what I want because it's what mom and dad want. They're living through the kid, which is fine, which is okay, because they do know their child, they do know how they develop. But for the most part, if you never burn out if you do something you love. Yeah,
that's true. I thinking back on my own life, like, I rode every single day, like,
because you look
my
forward
whole
to
life.
It.
I was like, when I wasn't riding, I was like upset. Right. So that is a true thought. Yeah. I really appreciate, I think John Tomac did this really good with Eli, because, Eli's beast mode now, all that. But growing up, I mean, it was like you always looked at Eli like he was riding a unicycle around. He was like doing all these other things at like amateur nationals that most of the parents are going like, what is he doing? You know, it wasn't till probably his last 2 years that he really took things seriously. But I think that allowed him to like enjoy what he was doing. And then, you know, when the time came to really put the hard work in, there's something about them that, you know, he's 33 years old, still pushing hard. So, yeah, I don't know. I don't know what the answer is to that, but I think you're probably right in that as long as the kid's pushing for it, then that's probably the answer.
And that's the thing. Like, you're still a kid.
Yeah.
Let the kid be a kid. I mean, yes, you need to nowadays in order to excel, you have to go all in. You have to go beast mode, whatever you want to call it. You have to be, you know, 100% hyper focused. But on some days, the kid has to be a kid. And if he's not allowed to be a kid, then he's going to burn out.
Yeah.
And he's going to do things, and he's not going to develop until he's hit maturity, in which at 8, 9, there's no such thing as an 8, 9, 10-year-old world champion.
Yeah.
There's no such thing as an 8, 9, 10-year-old Olympic champion.
Yep.
They may be great or they may be very athletic, but who knows what sport they're going to excel at when they get later on in life. They could have a growth spurt, they could gain weight, they could lose weight, they could, you know, really enjoy something and have a passion for it. And their trajectory of what sport they do just changes.
Yeah.
But that's the thing is like, if you allow your child to explore and develop on their own and expose them to all different types of athleticism, they're ultimately going to be a better athlete.
Yeah.
So whatever they do, they're going to be better at it.
Yep.
But it also helps develop skill and the mentality of winning and losing, playing against better kids or not so good kids. And it allows them to understand the real world per se at such a young age.
Yep.
Which if you're always playing one sport and you're always doing something, you're always winning. What happens when you lose?
Yeah. It's good to suck at something every now and then.
Yeah.
Especially as a kid. Yeah. I see a little bit of myself. You know, I got a little bit of I don't have as much of a temper as I had before, but you saw the gingerness come out. Quite a bit.
A couple times.
Yeah.
The one time that was extremely funny was the time in Illinois. You remember what happened?
I don't know. There's several things that happened.
It was summertime. We wanted to do haircuts.
You gave me a buzz cut and your razor died.
And the buzzer died halfway through.
That haircut would actually be really cool right now. It's kind of the trend. Because you did the sides in the back, and then the top was just like probably 4 inches long. Though.
The top didn't get touched.
Yeah.
Yeah, the buzzer died.
And then I just ran it for probably 2 days.
That was the angriest I've ever seen you.
Yeah, I was mad.
Up until a couple times later on. But it was comical because you were so angry at something so irrelevant and everybody knew it. And
just
everybody
put a hat on.
Yeah, I cover it up. Big deal. Your hair's going to grow. But it was the most insanely anger behavior attitude. Like you wouldn't talk to anybody.
I was fighting mad for sure.
You wouldn't talk to anybody. You wouldn't look at anybody.
Probably for like a day. Yeah. At least. Yeah.
I could have given you at that point hot dog and pizza, and you probably wouldn't have. I'm not eating it.
Just water for me.
Just water, because I'm angry. I'm angry.
Yeah, man. Yeah. You saw a couple times that comes out. The funniest things to me looking back on was you had us using mouthpiece when we were training. And, you know, we would do these circuits, and then you'd always throw in these like weird movements, and it would just be hard and weird. And you'd be really tired, and it'd be like, your mind would be going, and then you'd say something, and it would make you want to, you know, really like come out of your shoes. But I remember a couple of times you said something, and actually the funniest time to me was Phil Nicoletti was in California, and Phil, he was like,
we were running sprints
with these stupid mouthpieces in, and Phil was like had a sprained ankle or something, so he was just jump roping or something. I don't know.
Right.
This is funny because this is not Phil, you know, but Phil was like, come on guys, try hard. And I just remember like this mouthpiece and just like, I don't even remember what I said.
And the drool was falling out of your mouth.
Yeah,
that's what it was.
He said, just keep trying or something. And I said something like, I'm trying, Phil. You keep trying, or I don't know. But
you said, shut up, Phil. I'm trying. Why don't you get out here and do it? So shut up. And it was something like that. And everybody was like, wow, Trey got mad. Trey got mad. And Phil was just trying to encourage everybody.
Phil was like, this is the one time in Phil's life he was actually just super nice.
He was supportive for once.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I just jumped down his throat.
So sorry to the world, or you're welcome to the world for getting bad news, Phil.
Yeah.
I killed any kind of...
Bad news Phil was a good guy that day.
Yeah.
Other than that, Phil was Phil.
Anytime he tries to be nice, he just gets triggered. He's like, oh, I can't be nice.
Yeah.
But the funny part was all the spit.
The spit was coming out, the mouthpiece. And yes, there were... And again, that leads back to the earlier conversation about the mental aspect of that training is... When are you going to cave? When are you going to quit? And that's what I think we had such a good relationship because, like, you know me really well. I knew you really well. And I know where that limit was with you. And we always pushed that limit, whether it was breathing, whether it was the mouthpiece, whether it was the step-ups in the gym when you threw the dumbbells and we had a little chat after that. Like, I knew the limit. And that's I think, why we had such a good connection and the success that we had, because I knew when to push you and how hard to push you. And I knew when your response was valid or when it was, you were just angry.
Yeah. Or I was off that day or whatever. Yeah.
So,
that is so important. I mentioned the Lawrences quite a bit, just they are successful right now. But there's one thing that I really admire about Dazzy, the dad, is having someone that knows your limits around you is like so important because so much of yourself wants to quit when it gets hard, and having someone right beside you that knows, hey, you got at least 5-10% more in today. Dazzy's so good at that. We'll be testing and Jed or Hunter will be like, man, it's hot. And we've been here 12 hours and Dazzy's like, nope, put your gear on, let's go. And they respond well, and I think, we had that same relationship, and I appreciate it because it's a war in your mind that if you don't learn to reach that next 5-10%, it's hard to get there. And if you don't have someone beside you going, you got more. Yeah. It's hard to ever get there.
If you've never tried to get there in practice or in your training environment, how do you ever expect to get there when you need to?
Yeah.
Because physically, psychologically, physiology, like your brain will not allow you to do it because you've never pushed that limit.
Yeah.
And by pushing that limit and understanding that you can go more, that allows that envelope to be pushed down the road.
Yeah.
But yeah, the psychological aspect of knowing when to quit or when to push you, or anybody to do that. As you said, I don't know them, but yeah, they're killing it right now, which is a testament to their program. Whatever he's doing with them, whatever they're doing is obviously working really well. But the purpose, there has to be a purpose behind everything you do. And I know people in the industry have when we were training, looked at what we did as, wow, what are they doing?
Lifting weights? What?
Yeah, lifting weights. Big muscle guy, whatever, and that's not what we do. We just cycle and we just do this and stuff. But there was always a purpose to what we did, whether it was the conditioning, whether it was the lifting weights, whether it was doing 30-minute motos. There was always a purpose. And if you always have a purpose, then you can go back and measure it and see where the successes and the failures were. And you can say, here's our success roadmap, and just duplicate it. And here's where we missed the boat on certain things, and go back and eliminate that and make it better.
How can I learn from this? I think that's super important because there's really nothing magic, right? Like I think a lot of people look at training, if there's like this perfect recipe of rest and strength and endurance, and it's like this magical thing. But the reality is, it's the discipline of it, doing it, understanding how much you can take, what's too much, all of that is...
There's no magic, there's science. And that's what I try to apply with the kids that I'm working with, whether they're motocross kids or my NFL guys or wherever. There's science behind it, but workout in general, whether it's a conditioning workout or whether it's a weightlifting workout, the exercises are really kind of everything is based off of very few movements, squat, hinge, push, pull, all that. There's different variations of everything. And you have an energy system development that should be contingent upon what sport or activity you play. And if you apply the science that's behind that, you're going to get better. But sometimes there's physical limitations that people encounter that you can have the greatest training program in the world, but physically they're just not going to get there as quickly as somebody else would be there. So.
Yeah. There's some wacky stuff out right now. So many movements. Instagram's probably brought that to light, but man, it is funny to see some of this stuff.
There's stuff out there that's really dangerous because influencers, whoever they are, with no education, no background, no credibility, just because they have 1 million followers or they buy 1 million followers, it's what you can do. And there's trainers that have an education and that are certified or have experience in the sport that do crazy stuff, that there's no science behind it. I mean, there's school for this. It's really simple. Like, go to school, learn about kinesiology, learn about physiology, learn about how to get somebody from point A to point B with the science, and then just apply it. It's simple.
So rewinding a little bit back to your school, so Nebraska, played football in Nebraska.
So it was a long journey, playing up through school. Came down here from New Jersey. Originally went to Miami and was there for a semester. Didn't really have a great experience there. Being a Jersey guy going into Miami in the late 80s, it was just
with a sick mullet. Did you have the mullet then?
I had a mullet. Of course I did. I had a mullet, and I drove an IROC in high school. Okay, so typical Jersey
You were like
Shore.
the 80s Jersey Shore.
They copied me. The Jersey Shore came out after. Okay. But we did live at the Jersey Shore.
No way.
Yeah. We lived at the
Did
shore.
you ever see, when you go back, did you ever know the crew?
No.
You seem like someone you'd probably want to beat up.
Yeah, they wouldn't hang out with us. We were cool. They were not.
I just realized, Ronnie Feist?
Yeah.
We
I know who he
did
is.
a podcast with him. He's from Jersey too.
Yeah.
Crazy.
Yeah. You know Jersey Mikes?
Yeah.
Yeah, they're from Jersey.
Oh, okay. Cool.
Okay.
Yeah. They got the really good peppers you can put on there.
Do they?
Yeah, I haven't eaten Jersey Mike's in like 10 years, but I remember last time I went, I was really impressed.
10
with
years
the peppers.
ago, they had really good peppers.
Yeah.
You remember that?
I do, yeah.
It must have been
you know
really
I
good.
like food. You know I like to eat.
But yeah, so it was journey, went to school in Miami, didn't really have a great experience there. And then came back to the west coast of Florida because when I went to school in Miami, my mom said, well, we're just going to move to Florida. A lot better than New Jersey. The weather's better. Came home, and then after the semester was over, went out and played football. And that's a whole story that was long past.
Yeah.
So all good.
What was it like going to Nebraska?
Well, it was different.
Yeah.
It was different. There wasn't a lot of culture.
We're in Oklahoma. You don't call this culture?
Yeah, it was just different. It was different. It was funny because being from Florida, the 4 or 5 really good group of friends that I had there, one was from Wyoming, one was from California, another one was from New Jersey, and me being in Florida, and we were kind of like from all different parts of the country, and that was like the 4 or 5 guys that we hung together out there and stuff. So it was fun. It was awesome. A great experience. It taught me a lot about discipline. Taught me a lot about how to be gritty and how to fight for your position. How to fight for playing time. How to make sure you got your homework done. Because you're on your own.
Yeah.
At school, it's a lot different nowadays. I assume. I mean, I know it is because I work with a lot of college kids now.
Yep.
But it's a lot different now than it was back then. Obviously with the NIL and money and all that other stuff. But it was a lot different. I was, 2,500 miles from home.
Yeah.
And I would
with
get
a payphone.
With a flip phone. I don't even know.
Oh, you had a flip phone?
I think I had a flip phone.
Nice.
But I had a dial phone in my room.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was just different, and being on your own, doing that just taught you a lot about life. And I remember I would get care packages from mom, and it would be, food and whatever and stuff like that. And everybody knew when you got a package from mom, and everybody was at your room, and
Just
for
gone
whatever
in
reason,
about
it
20
was
minutes?
gone. Like the whole package, like was gone in like a day. So you're like, all right, so that's why you got to go to the next kid's room because that's when the food shows up.
Yeah,
and stuff. So,
yeah.
But it was fun. It was good. Definitely taught me a lot. What I look for in like hiring employees and stuff for the gym and stuff now is I look for their experience as a collegiate athlete. Because it shows their discipline, shows that they're gritty enough to stick it out and do their homework and be diligent about structure and discipline and follow a system and follow a process. But it was a very, very good experience.
Yeah.
So.
I just kind of got to see my younger brother go through it.
Yep.
He played D2 ball at a school near us. And
Yep.
man, it was wild.
Yeah.
Like he was busy from like 5:30 a.m. until 11 p.m.
Yeah.
Basically.
Yep. Yeah,
Like every day during the season.
Yeah, you have, and even in off season when you have spring ball, you're up at 5:30, 6 in the morning, running, doing your drills, doing spring ball stuff, and then you have weight room, and then you have homework, and then you have another session, then you have films, and then you have homework, and then you go to bed, and you repeat it again the next day.
Yeah.
And that's not including that. I mean, the same thing happens during the season, but then you have games, you have travel time, you have recovery days, all that stuff. So a collegiate athlete understands the discipline that you go through, and it's something that I look for in hiring an employee when they come on board.
Right. One of your roommates or teammate was Harold
Big
Martin.
Big H.
How in the world? Small world.
Small world. So after school, we got done, and I went to Loretta's. It must have been 2007. Maybe it was 6 with you. I don't know. And I'm walking through the pits at Loretta's, and this guy that looks familiar is walking the opposite direction. And I turn and look at him, and I'm like, Harold? And he's like, Greg? Yeah, it was so weird and so funny that it was 10 years.
Yeah.
10 years later that we saw each other in the pits. Crazy. And Harold's from Florida. He's from St. Petersburg. So it was just kind of a funny story.
Oh, that's wild.
And I talked to Big H probably would be a text or a joke here and there, twice a month, 3 times a month.
Yeah.
Just touch base with him. Really funny story about Big H. We, when you're an incoming freshman, you put on a skit for the team. We did our skit. He wasn't part of our group because he came in later. We did a big skit in Nebraska being Mount Rushmore, being out there. The 4 of us, we did Mount Rushmore, but we actually did Mount Rushmore with the coaches. And we drew pictures and painted ourselves on the opposite side, down below the waist of the coaches. And when they came out, they opened the screen, and we were the Mount Rushmore. The coaches' faces were on our back sides of Mount Rushmore. That was our skit. Kind of lost. Everybody lost it. It was hysterical. It was funny until Harold came out. So Harold comes out in a sport coat and a jacket with a violin that he's got just here holding it with, nothing. It's like just attached to him, and he's got his bow here, and he's playing the violin, and he's singing, and everybody's sitting there going, this isn't funny.
What's this guy's
What's
deal?
this guy doing? And finally at the end, he stands up, or he comes to the front of the stage, takes a bow, and takes the violin and puts it down below, and his finger comes out of his fly and grabs the bow, and he takes a bow. And it took a couple seconds for people to go,
What just happened?
what just happened with that? How did he grab that? What grabbed that? And obviously the impression was it wasn't a finger, but it was his finger. So, but we thought we had the crowd until Big H came and took over.
Got
So,
it.
Yeah. So funny story.
I remember, I don't think you had told me that he was your roommate, and you just showed me a picture. You're like, who's that right there? And I'm like,
It was sitting in my dorm playing Excite Bike.
yeah.
Yeah, we're playing Excite Bike.
I was like, that looks like the playground guy.
Yeah.
You're like, that's him.
yeah.
Random.
So random. Funny.
So you finish your college ball, you move into the professional level at some level. I remember you told me the story about the combine one time. I think it was with
Dion, when Dion came in and stuff. Yeah, Dion came in, I guess, in the helicopter, came in, ran his 40, got on the copter and went back home.
I think you told me he was in street clothes too, right?
Yeah, he came like a jumpsuit.
Yeah.
That was it. And that's arrogant. That's cocky. That's not cool. But he backed it up.
Yeah.
Like probably one of the top 3-4 athletes ever to live.
Yeah.
Bo Jackson, I think, is probably the best athlete ever to walk the face of the earth. But Dion's got to be right there.
Yeah.
Dion's got to be right there because he played football and baseball professional in the same day.
That's crazy. I've seen that story where he finishes the football game and then goes straight to the baseball. It's just wild.
Amazing talent. And he's from Fort Myers.
No way.
From my town.
Wow.
The next town over where I live right now. So
crazy.
He hasn't been back in a while, but we welcome him back.
Yeah. Come on, Dion.
Come on in. But no, phenomenal athlete. And Dion played multiple sports, just like Bo played all sports growing up.
Yeah. Yeah. Wow. So one of the things that I remember from your professional stints, who were you able to be a part of?
So
in the NFL?
I went to a couple camps for a couple different teams and stuff. Never made it past camp, basically because of my size. I mean, they have a typical standard height and weight, so on and so forth. And if you don't meet that, the next guy behind you meets the same thing. Yeah, I was fast and strong and did all that, but so's everybody.
Yeah.
So's everybody
at that level.
Yeah. I mean, in order to play any collegiate sport, you're probably an all-state high school.
Yeah.
In order to play a Division III compared to or Division II compared to Division III, you're as good of an athlete. You're just bigger.
Yeah.
In order to play Division I, compared, you're even bigger than that.
Yeah.
So it doesn't matter if a guy can run 4.5 at 5'10", great. But somebody can run it at 6'1".
Yeah.
And someone can run it at 6'2", and someone can run it at 50 pounds heavier than you. So that's the thing. Like the NFL athletes that we train now that come in, they're physical specimens. You know, 6'3", 270 pounds, and as fast and as explosive as a 170-pound wide receiver. It's unbelievable.
It's funny when you're watching the combine and then you see some of these linemen, and it's like, God, look at that. He's moving like a glacier. Yeah. But you put him next to a normal human being, and they're still moving at like 300 pounds.
Yeah, like numbers that people really see. Oh, he ran at 4.2. He ran this. But if you're running, let's just call it a 5.2. Let's say you're running a 5.2 at 300 pounds or 280 pounds. Do you want to get hit with that? Do you want to get hit?
I don't.
Like,
I would die.
Like that's some serious speed and some serious weight and momentum. And like those guys are moving fast. And 5'2", 5'5", 4'2", it's all the same thing when you get hit.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just the quickness, the difference. But I mean, getting hit at a 4'9", a 5'2", a 4'1", a 5'9", whatever it is, with a 300-pound guy, not fun.
Yeah.
Not fun.
I remember, so I was super involved when I could be with Jackson's football. I remember, I went to like as many high school games as I could go to. Always got way too emotionally involved. I had to like start sitting over because the parents would make me mad, and then I would just start seeing red. And he got hit after the play one time. I almost ended up on the field. Yeah. Just
Trey dad came out.
Yeah.
Just wait until
my little guy.
ones go.
Yeah, I might. Yeah, I need to stay away from guns for sure.
Stay away from guns. No knives either. No knives. But J-Man came out and trained with me for a summer.
Yeah, I
out
remember.
in Jersey and stuff, and put him through some hard work.
Yeah,
and still did a bunch of stuff with him while he was remotely did all my stuff. And I'll tell you what, that kid worked hard. That kid worked hard, and not only do I think he worked hard, but his mind was really into it.
Yeah.
He was really focused on his goal.
Yep.
And that's what helped him excel. And look at what he's doing now.
Yeah.
He's going to be doctor of physical therapy, which is, I'm so proud of that.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
And I'm still seeing like what he's doing now, the student athlete part of that has helped him so much just because it's the same thing, right? I mean, he's having to manage so much time. He's doing a remote program. So it's like, he's really got to be disciplined by himself, which is hard.
Yep.
So it's awesome, man. I remember he was like 10 years old and he would see what we were doing. I remember like going up to our shop one time and the music's just like blaring and he's just like created his own little circuit. I'm like, what are you doing, kid?
Yeah. But we just talked about the discipline and the structure that he learned in school. Look how it's helping him right now. That's a huge win.
Yep.
Huge win for him. Yeah.
kind of back to the story I was talking about. I remember, I went to a lot of his high school games. The first college game I went to was a green and white game. It was their spring game. It was COVID year, so they didn't play at all, but they'd still prepped. So they did just their spring game, just the team. I remember hearing the hits like from the stands. It was like I was just thought, man, these guys. It was real, And in high school, when they ever scrimmaged or anything, it was kind of like these soft hits. These guys were competing for a spot, and it was insane. I couldn't believe it.
Well, as you just said, like everybody that plays a college sport was the best of the best that played at their high school.
Yeah.
And yeah, in high school games, you get one or two really outstanding, crazy plays, crazy hits that kind of like, oh, wow, that was. But at the college level, it happens.
It was every play.
Every play, there's something that's significant that happens. Yeah. So, yeah, it's different.
Yeah, it's wild. Yeah. Okay, so after you're done with school, you do your thing. A couple things that are like gnarly to me is a little bit of law enforcement, SWAT, I think, bodybuilding, boat racing, like all these things. It's like I always tell people, yeah, Greg, you race boats. Yeah, he was a part of SWAT. Yeah, I played football, like all these different things. What happened in that time from college to the time that I met you?
A lot.
It sounds like it.
It was just part of after school. It was part of, okay, what am I going to do now? What type of career am I going to have? I've always been into fitness, so the evolution was something in the athletic world or something in the physical world. And I started a security company, and we did executive protection. We did surveillance equipment. We built equipment for law enforcement agencies. We did counter surveillance. We did a lot of things in the law enforcement industry. Building one of the first in-car video systems that were being used, not today because the technology so far advanced, but we built an in-car video system that my local town took over, and they were our test agency. Then we took that nationwide. It was a huge success for us because we eventually got bought and the patent got taken over by a company in Illinois, which is how I eventually
Gotcha. That was one of my questions. How did you end up in Illinois? Yeah.
So the security company was physical security and products. And we were doing security actually on 9/11, perimeter security, when 9/11 happened, when George Bush was in Sarasota. So that was our uniformed and our covert security application. But the product line was primarily leaning more towards law enforcement because we were growing and developing a lot more of those products. And my local friends of mine who were on the police department in Cape Coral in Florida came to us and said, hey, we want a video system for the car. Can you build one? And finding some resources, we were able to put together a system with a company out of Exeter, New Hampshire, and built that system. And that eventually got taken nationwide, as I said. But what we also did was then we started doing all the equipment for the local SWAT teams and doing all the training and all the physical training and all of that for the SWAT teams in our area. So that's kind of my law enforcement SWAT background. Which still today, I live in the same town that happened with. My daughter was a police officer, is a police officer, but she's obviously had a baby a year ago. So now she stepped back to being a full-time mom, which is awesome. But all my friends, I grew up in that town after school and had my business, and they're all cops.
Cool.
So that was that. Bodybuilding, kind of, I didn't really do much bodybuilding after that. And then racing motocross kind of wasn't there because I was old and tired and didn't want to sweat. And
it's raining.
Yeah. Does it rain here in Oklahoma?
Yeah, it's rained a lot this year. Yeah.
And then my dad raced boats from whatever I can remember, and luckily my business became successful enough to have the capability to buy a boat and start racing boats. And we started racing boats, and I raced with my brother, and then we got a bunch of other outside sponsors, and then took a couple years off of boat racing, came back in 2017 with a friend of mine that I used to race with that I met down in Florida. We won the world title in 2019, and then took a year or two off after that, bought another boat in 2023 and won the world championship in 2023. And actually Jimmy Albertson was in the boat, I had Ronnie Mack come and come in the boat and race one race with me.
He told me, I go, hey, how was that boat race? And he was like, it was the worst. He said he was so scared. Yeah.
It's a different experience.
Yeah.
Yeah. You're at the mercy of the sea.
Yeah.
And you're at the mercy of the environment. And let me back up. And so in 2017, when we first started racing, but when I got back into boat racing, at the World Championships in 2017, we flipped and rolled at 100 miles an hour.
And, I remember that. You break your collarbone?
And it was some ribs and separated shoulder and head cut open, so on and so forth. But going from 98 miles an hour to 0, literally in like 5 seconds, is pretty impactful.
Yeah.
Your body goes through some G-forces that, aren't fun.
Yep.
Luckily, the boat didn't get destroyed. Motors got, hurt and stuff. So, but that was 2018. Came back the next year with the same boat, with Ryan Beckley, who's my good friend who I've raced with forever, and won the world championships with Ryan in 2019. Cool. The same race that I almost died the year before.
Yeah.
So funny story. Definitely. It wasn't funny at the time, but I think, I showed you the video, but going, in an enclosed canopy cockpit at 90 miles an hour to 0, and rolling and flipping, was an experience that I'll never forget, but I don't remember it.
Yeah.
Because it happened so quickly and with the concussion that you get.
Yeah.
It's not fun.
Yeah. So I always tell people, they're like, so how was it getting landed on? I'm like, I'm really happy I don't remember. I think my body remembers somehow, but we'll just try to forget that one. Yeah.
But with Jimmy, he came and Ronnie came and raced 2023 marathon with us, myself, Ryan, and Ronnie, and it didn't look like it was going to be a bad race. And the day before, the storm came in, and it was 4 to 5 footers out there, with a massive rainstorm. And going into the first turn, we were right behind one of the other boats, and they actually hooked and flipped, and right in front of us, the guys got thrown out of the boat. And that was pretty eye-opening, because then they red flag it, and you go back to the start and start it again. And we did it again, and coming around, I have it on video, and we're coming through the rough section of the race course. Even though every section is rough, this was just kind of where the currents cross. We launched it a couple times and landed on the side, literally like a half an inch from touching the water. Like we could have touched the water on the side there. And I look over, and Jimmy is down. Jimmy's down. Jimmy's under the handlebar and the bolster underneath. And I'm looking over at him, looking down and yelling at him through the intercom, "Get up, because you're going to kill us. You're going to go underneath, and you're going to die. You're going to kill us, and you're going to live. So get up." So just funny story, but it's a dangerous sport. But it's fun. I mean, it's just like any sport. It's fun. But,
That's wild, man. So, there's a lot in there for sure. But how does that bring you back? The first time I would have seen you, I think, was probably 2005 at Loretta's.
Yep.
eFitness Academy. Mm-hmm. You had a big rig.
Yep.
I remember, and I didn't think a whole lot about it. Like I said, I was running, so I was fit.
You were in shape. You were in the round shape. Okay.
Perfect shape is round. Because that was basically the perfect circle. But it was like I said, 2006 got introduced. But how did you get to that point?
Up to 2005 with the rig at Loretta's.
Yep.
Backtracking, selling the patent and selling the company to Decatur Electronics, who eventually took over the in-car video system. Bob Sanner, who was the CEO of the company, one of the greatest mentors I've ever had in my life, asked me for years and years, "Hey, we want you to come up and run the company. We want you to come up and run the company." And I was sitting on the beach in Florida going, "No, I'm good. I'm okay." After about 2 years and making an offer that I was like, all right, let's go try it. Let's go see. Moved up to Illinois, ran that company for 4.5 years. The company then we eventually sold to a international company, and they wanted to then at that point move operations to California. I'm like, I'm not going to California. So I'm like, well, what else do I know? And I knew fitness and I knew motocross. So started working out in the gym. It actually started with Kyle Corman.
Oh, no, Corman was your first guy. Wow.
Corman, yep. So I started with Kyle because he actually lived in Central Illinois in Decatur. Started training him. Kyle started getting a little bit better, moving up. Then it got to, okay, if I'm going to do this, let's go full speed. Looked for a couple other riders. Actually went up to, I was at a race, I think it was South Fork, I think it may have been. And I was 30 plus class. And 30 plus class rides, you have a staggered start or whatever it was back then with the 250As and 450A class, or back then, whatever it was. And I got slammed in a corner by a guy by the name of Roy Horton. And I was like, wow, that guy's fast. I wasn't mad. It wasn't anything because big deal.
Did you go up to him after the race?
So I went up to him after the race.
He was probably like, oh.
And Roy tells me to this day, and I still talk to Roy probably twice a week. And Roy to this day, he's actually a doctor of physical therapy now too.
Nice.
So I talked to Roy, and Roy's like, I don't know what you're doing. I thought you were coming over to beat me up because I slammed you in the corner. No, I said, I came up to you because I wanted to talk to you to find out who you were and let you know what we were doing about developing the team and doing a training protocol. And that's how that started. Then I got a couple other guys and so on and so forth. And I said, well, if we're going to do this, let's do it. Got a big rig, got a semi, went to Loretta's with Brandon Mays was on the team at that point. With Kyle, with Roy, with Tyler Locke, with a couple other kids, and said, let's go full speed. And that's how it was in 2005. And then with Ashley, all that stuff kind of took off from there.
Yeah. Oh, that's wild. How did you get hooked up with Johnny Murphy?
From town.
Okay.
So I was doing some work in town. Johnny actually lived in the next town over, and he got connected with me somehow. He was a short tracker, Harley Davidson guy, and he was looking for something. And I went into the local Harley Davidson shop because I have a bike, and went to buy some parts and was talking to the owners and stuff. And they knew who I was. And the next thing I knew, I got a call from Johnny. Said, hey, I'm looking for this. I hear you're in town. Let's get together. Johnny and I met. We went to breakfast or something somewhere and got him started on the program.
That's crazy.
And it was really crazy because Johnny Showtime was like one of the best of the best.
Yeah.
And Johnny's a solid dude, really good dude. He's out in Idaho, I think, right now, and he's got a beta dealership and stuff, and he's still doing really well. But Johnny and I became clients. He was my client, but we became really good friends, and we trained a lot together, utilized his house a lot for kids that came in and stuff like that. But yeah, Johnny, that's how I got hooked up. He picked up the phone because the dealers, Kozire, Harley, the owners, they said, hey, give Greg a call and you guys can get set up from there.
That's crazy. Yeah. I mean, I guess you still talk to Johnny, but it's got to be cool for him to see where Flat Track's at right now. I mean, because those guys are insane at what they do. And in that time, like, I feel like he carried Flat Track for a minute.
He definitely was the face of Flat Track, not Fat Track. You were Fat Track. he was the case of he was definitely the face of Flat Track. And the first time I ever went to a race with him, it was the Springfield Mile, and I was amazed at the speed these guys go. And they were 2 inches off the guardrail at 140 miles an hour.
Yeah.
It's insane. Like that in person was insane. And then it was the TT and all that stuff. But and then worked with a couple other guys in Flat Track, did a bunch of those guys and stuff, and spent some time on the road with Johnny. We came to Daytona. We did a bunch of traveling and got him ready for a bunch of stuff. And Johnny is a very hypeable person. Like, Johnny's full speed.
Yeah.
When he's into it, he's into it. And I remember him saying one time at Daytona, you can't talk to me before my race, because he jumped a start twice because he was just ready to eat fire. He was ready to eat lightning, crap thunder, like you. And it's just Johnny. That's just Johnny, and a great guy. And as I said, I talk to him probably twice a month, via text and stuff. But he's out there doing his thing out there and loving life, and he's got a great family and everything. I'm really happy for what Johnny's done with himself.
Yeah, it was pretty cool. I remember I stayed at Johnny's house. He was somewhere else racing.
He
or
was in
something.
California.
Yeah.
Johnny's from Paso Robles, California.
Yep.
So he was out there. He had a house out there and the house here.
Yep.
But go ahead. Keep the story
so
going.
we stayed there, and you kept telling me this house was haunted, and I'm like, Dad, whatever, like I don't care about that. It's not real. But you had, I think maybe had one of his racing suits or something. So it was in the attic. I don't know. I just remember running out of that house as quick as I could.
What we were doing was, yes, I was telling you the house was haunted, and Big B and I kind of went in and said, hey, we got to do something to kind of like freak Trey out a little bit, see what's going on. So I took one of Johnny's suits and we filled his leathers up with pillows and blankets and stuff and put it in the attic, on the attic door. When you pull the door, the ladder comes down. And there was always some creaks, and because it was an older house in Central, so it was a wooden house, and you hear those creaks and cracks. And one evening, it was just before dark, I think, right, somewhere around there.
Yeah. And
I'm like, "Do you hear that? You hear?" I'm like, "I'm gonna check over here, and you check over here, and Trey, you go check upstairs and check the attic." And you're like, "I'm not checking." I'm like, "Don't check the attic. Just pull the door and I'll go up there." And we walk up there, and Big B and I were dying because we knew it was going to happen. We were trying, and you pulled on the attic door, and we rigged the suit so as soon as you opened it, it fell.
Oh, it came at me.
It came at you.
It came at me, and I was out of there so fast.
Before I could take 2 breaths, you were downstairs out the door. That's the fastest I've ever seen you run. Out the door and a block away down the street.
I was gone. I remember being so freaked out. I mean, it was like the human body just fell out of that attic.
Yeah, the leather's packed in there. It looked just like a human. Yeah, that was a funny story.
So I remember, like I said, I talked to Jim Filick, who was like, "Yeah, give Greg a call. He'll help you kind of elevate." Because I was winning I just started winning some nationals in that time, and I really felt like the next thing was probably my fitness. Mm-hmm. I was not very.
You weren't very fit.
No, I wasn't fit. No. And so I gave you a call. Was super nervous. I remember. I think you sent over like this food list of what you could eat. And I remember, I was from Western Oklahoma, right? Like artichoke was on there, and I'm like, what's an artichoke? But I remember just scouring like our local grocery store, like, oh, babe, where artichokes are? And everyone's like, I never heard of an artichoke. But I remember being so scared, because you had a meal plan. And basically it wasn't, it was nothing. It wasn't rocket science. It was good.
It was
clean,
a healthy approach to eating.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. It was not fried chicken, right? As what I was.
Chicken is
used
great,
to eat.
but you can fry it or you can eat it grilled.
Yeah.
That was the whole concept behind what I tried to do: get you off the fried chicken into getting grilled chicken.
Yeah. I remember I got some natural. I think it was peanut butter, and you said, "Hey, let's try to stay away from like Skippy and Jif and that." And I remember getting it, and it was all the oil was on top, and I was like, this is what my life's gonna be. I gotta eat this. I didn't know that you had to mix it in, so I would just take like spoonfuls of this like oily peanut butter. So
just like drinking Wesson oil.
Yeah,
that was good.
Yeah.
But the objective there was we knew we had to drop some weight.
Yeah.
So being a little more strict in the beginning was an objective. Like that had to get done, but it was also, again, another let's see how bad you really want to lose weight, and let's put together something more strict than you're accustomed to, but also probably more strict than we needed to.
Yep.
Because we needed results, and we needed to test your will into doing it. Yeah.
I'm convinced like that summer changed the trajectory of my career. Just the amount of discipline and structure and how bad do you want it? It took everything that I had naturally, and it gave it a guideline to success. And I really appreciate that summer because I really think that it kind of set the next phase of my career off. Like, and I don't think that I would have done what I did in my career without that summer. But also in life. I mean, it taught me a lot about discipline and, when you're eating clean food in Western Oklahoma, it ain't easy. Right. There's like 47 fast food places. But there's not much grilled chicken in Western Oklahoma is hard to find.
It's just about discipline and choices.
Yeah.
Really.
Yeah. And I didn't know that it was possible. I always looked at it like, oh, that's that California stuff,
Right.
But I didn't know that you could do it. And so it's just a lot of that mental side of like, hey, I'm going to really give this a go. It really changed a lot for me. So I appreciate that.
And I appreciate you saying that. And I appreciate the effort that you put in. Because if it wasn't effort on your part, there wouldn't have been, and I'm not saying there wouldn't have been as much effort on my part, but it has to be give and take.
Yeah.
Like you have to provide feedback so I know what to do and how to do it and how to push you. And that's where I think we developed in that summer, really the understanding of who you were, what your intrinsic behaviors were, what motivated you, what made you angry, what buttons did we need to push, what did we need to do to flip the switch in you when we needed to flip the switch.
Yeah.
And, we went over a lot of that stuff with the D3 that you talked about, with a lot of things that we did. There was always a meaning behind something, and we didn't use it all the time. We always just kind of pulled it out when it was necessary.
Yep.
And I think that was one of the things that really, really helped us excel and propel your career. And I think that may be something that's missing a lot in the sport today. Is those capabilities that we had because of maybe societal issues or because of logistics or whatever. We spent a lot of time together that summer, 3 months pretty much.
Yeah, we talked every day, 3 days a week. It was on the phone a lot. And it was, when I look back on it, the training was hard or whatever. I mean, it's kind of like the workload compared to what I could do. I mean, you definitely scientifically built it, right? But I look back and the workload was not that crazy high. It was just all the things around it. I remember you taught me about visualization. You had me keep a journal, which I thought was so dumb. All those little things, there was all these stupid stretches and all these vitamins and like all this stuff that it's just that all that together taught me so much about just life in general, but also just how to be a professional athlete. And it was huge. I mean, it was stuff I used my whole career.
Well, I appreciate that for sure. And it's the knowledge that I gained growing up as an athlete and what I knew helped me become successful as an athlete, just trying to pass that on and trying to get you involved in doing the same thing. Yes, it was somewhat tedious, but there was always a system and a process, and there was a program behind it. If you did A, B, and C, D was next.
Yep.
And that progression, that periodization, whether it was in the gym or whether it was cardio or whether it was the journaling or whatever it may be, there was always, and I didn't convey to you a lot the reasons why, because not that you didn't care, not that I didn't care to tell you, but that was my job.
Yeah.
My job to give you the guidance and push you and pull you along while not burdening you with the minutia of, well, how come and why and how. Yes, you needed to know all that. We went over that. But why hire me to do the same thing that you needed, that you could have done on your own?
Yeah.
Take that burden off of you and put it on me.
Yeah.
So.
I didn't think I realized at that point, really through my whole career, I was getting a lot right as far as the discipline part of it. The things that we were doing mentally, even training wise, the structure with everything, the diet. This was stuff that guys 3, 4, 5, 6 years were coming into that. I didn't realize at the point, like I was already doing, I just assumed this is what everyone was doing. It was the structure of that. I think, man, it was really important. So, and like I said, it's not rocket science. It's just, that's what it takes.
It's discipline, it's coaching, it's mentorship, it's guidance, and it's someone to support you and provide those details. Because I'm doing a lot of stuff with Greg Albertson and his game moto athletes. and they're on a very similar type of regimen and structure. That they have journals, they have information, they have goals. We communicate on a daily basis, but they have to do the work. With you had to do the work, but I knew you were going to do the work. With some of the kids nowadays, it's a little more of a challenge, and it's getting them to understand that there's an end game here, and there's always a system, there's always a program. But sometimes kids nowadays don't see that, and it's that grit and that determination that you had. That I never had a question if you were going to do it. If we didn't talk for 2 or 3 days, I knew that what you did over those 2 or 3 days was what you were supposed to do.
Yeah.
And if you didn't, you would tell me.
Yeah.
Because there was accountability, because I was a little bit of a different person back then. I was a little more aggressive back then. Not saying that I'm not now, and I hold these kids accountable right now, but it's up to them. Like I tell them, I'll give you a steak. You just bring the forks and knives to eat it. So.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, there's so much value in that accountability that I think is probably not there in a lot of ways now, but man, it's so valuable. I just see it as a dad now. Like if I don't keep my son accountable, like his behavior changes. And so I think, man, that is so huge. I'm kind of curious as to, so I call you on the phone and I'm nervous, right? Like I think cell phones are like pretty common then, but I was younger, just had my first cell phone. So I wasn't used to just calling random people. I remember calling you and it would just seem like, whoa, this huge thing. What in the world did you think kind of the first time we talked, and then the kind of moving into when we started training together?
I think I talked to your mom first.
Yeah.
I talked to your mom first. I don't know if we ever discussed that, but I did talk to your mom first, and got a little background. So on you and your experience, your life, and what's happened and what's gone on in your life. So I had a little bit of an understanding of who you were as a person. Didn't know you, but I had a background. So that kind of gave me a little bit of an insight as to how to talk to you and what to say, and what I should ask, and what feedback I was going to get from you. It wasn't anything different than like any of my other clients. Like I didn't know that you had won, whatever, maybe Punka or a spring and ding, whatever they call it, back then. It wasn't, you were just somebody that my goal and my objective was to see if you were a fit for my program and I was a fit for your program, and if we could take you to the next level. And it wouldn't have mattered if you were a football player or a basketball player or a motocrosser. My approach to all my athletes, and even you back then and today, is really the same exact thing. It's, let's make sure that I'm a fit for you and you're a fit for me. And if not, no big deal. High five, go ahead, go find something else, or go find somebody else. Or the athlete tell me like I'm not a good fit for you. So.
Yeah. I'm always curious because you see yourself through a certain lens. Mine, I think I don't have the greatest self-worth, right? Like I've always probably seen myself lesser than some people see me. I remember, winning races and going like, what happened to the other guys? Were they sick today? Where, some people it's kind of like, oh, I was the man, but I'm just curious, like what was from your lens of me, what was your kind of idea of TC?
Didn't have much to go on in the beginning, but once we started working together, and your determination and your diligence about staying structured, like, okay, well, I didn't know we're going to wind up winning 2008 Supercross as a rookie. You have no idea that. Yeah. Didn't know that the next year, our first year at Loretta's, you go 6 for 6. Yeah. Didn't know any of that, but you could tell when someone wants it and when someone doesn't want it. And when someone wants it, it motivates you as the coach to do more, to push, because anytime you're getting better, it's helping me or helping the coach. And anytime I'm getting better, it's helping you. So it's a give and take, and making sure that I'm giving you everything you possibly can to help you get better, and you're giving me everything that you possibly can to help me help you get better. But in the beginning, I'm like, I don't know.
Some kid from Oklahoma wants to work with
Oklahoma, fine. Pay me $5 million.
I remember you're like, hey, just tell me a little bit about what you're doing. And, I said, hey, I just ran, 4 miles and I averaged a 4-minute mile. And you were like, 4-minute mile, train me. I'm like, oh, I meant 8. But yeah, that was a really transformative time in my career. So I appreciate it. And I think all of that work, people a lot of times ask me, how did you come back so strong at times and fast? And then also, you came out as a rookie swinging. I really think it wasn't that I was like some super great talent. It was all of that was behind it that just allowed me to adapt quickly. Mm-hmm. And then I was fit enough and disciplined enough to, just be ready.
You can correct me, but I believe every time that when we were together, every time you lined up at the gate, you believed you could win. Yeah. Whether you were a rookie coming at Loretta's, whether you're going to, an amateur at Loretta's, or St. Louis 2008, the last race of your supercross of your rookie career. I believe that you believed every time that you went to the line, you could win that race without a doubt, no matter who you lined up against. And we've talked about that many times over the years. The program that you were on, it could have been the best, it could have been the worst. But we believed, and you believed that it was helping you, and it was the best that you could do at that time. Yep. And you could look down the line, and I know that you could have believed in yourself to say, these guys haven't been through what I went through. Mm-hmm. And whether it was true or not, or whether they were working out harder or training harder, it didn't really matter because you believed you were training harder. You were in better shape. You were stronger. You were more mentally tough than them. And that's what it takes. Yeah. I mean, look at every sport nowadays. Let's say the Yankees and the Dodgers. How do you win 9-1 on one day and then lose 15-5 on the? How can you hit yes, don't get me wrong. Pitching, baseball is the hardest sport to hit a round ball with a round bat, but you're still hitting a ball. Yep. You still how can you swing and miss for 9 innings. Yeah. And the next day, hit everything that comes across the plate. Yeah. Well, the Oklahoma City Thunder, they get blown out by 40 and then come back and blow the other team out by 40. So it's the same thing. It's it's a belief and a confidence in what you've done to get to this point to help me move forward. Mm. And we did really, really, really hard stuff. And we did stuff that was completely unconventional. But there was a purpose and there was a confidence building in you because you've never done any of that. So it was all brand new to you. Mm-hmm. It wasn't new to me because I knew what we were doing, but that confidence that you had, you were unstoppable. Yeah. You were unstoppable at that point. I think to me, like looking back on it, what you did really well, I think I do really well with performance goals. Mm-hmm. And I think you acknowledge that pretty quickly on, I had these, kind of, bigger goals that I wanted to achieve. I remember you had me write down like everything I wanted to achieve in my career at some point, and it's pretty wild what actually came true on that list. Yep. But I did really well with performance goals, and I think I acknowledged that through my whole career, and that as long as I was focusing on my effort, what I could control, that's when I was really at my best. It's kind of when I got spun out on winning or championships or whatever that kind of derailed. But that was, I think, something that you pulled out of me really good. Well, if you don't have a target, what are you shooting for? Yeah. And yes, the goals were your goals with some guidance and maybe some massaging and manipulating with you, but they're your goals. Yeah. And anytime you deviate from the program and you weren't doing what you should have been doing or weren't doing it as intense or as strict or as disciplined as you can, we went back to those goals. Yep. And I said, you wrote this down. Yeah. Like, don't write it down if you don't mean it. Yep. Unless you have a target, you just kind of like throwing stuff in the air and going, all right, maybe I want to, doesn't cut it. Yeah. And even today, the kids, I have them write the goals. They still don't get it.
Yeah.
They don't understand. They have their goals. They write it down. But that's their goals, not mine.
Yep.
I'm not going to win or lose. My life doesn't depend. I've luckily been successful enough in life and fortunate enough in life to, okay, I don't, if I'm not going to pat myself on the back for whatever successes anybody's had, because you guys are doing the work. It's your goals. If you achieve the goals, that's you. I'm just giving you some guidance and holding you accountable. But the goals have to be realistic, and that's where it comes into play on making sure that the goal is attainable in a certain time, in a certain time frame, as well as with the opportunities that you're given.
Yeah. One of my favorite quotes is by Yogi Berra, and he says, if you don't know where you're going, you might not get there.
Right.
And it's so true. I mean, it's and it's not that, I think some people are worried about writing a goal down. Oh, I might not achieve it. And, maybe it's too lofty, whatever. Man, who cares? Just write it down.
Write it down.
Yeah. I'd rather a million times fail than never to have even written it down on a piece of paper.
It's a target.
Yeah.
Like, what else are you going to do? Like, if eventually by reading it and looking at it and doing the work, that goal is going to be, you're going to believe that goal.
Yeah.
It's not just going to be something on a piece of paper. It's the visualization aspect and stuff. There's a story about one of the, a high wire walker walked across Niagara Falls with a wheelbarrow full of bricks. News was there, and this is way back in the 40s and stuff. So he walks across with a wheelbarrow, gets halfway across, turns around and walks backward. Once he gets to the other side, dumps the bricks out, and all the fame and fortune and all the reporters came over and said, wow, great, blah, 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 blah. Do you believe you can do it again? The guy said, yeah, I believe I can do it again. Why not? And the guy asked the reporter, do you believe I can? And the guy said, yeah, I believe you can. Did you really believe that I can? Yeah. He said, okay, if you believe I can, get in. So that belief, it's what drives people. And the more you do, the more you believe in yourself, the more that opportunity will come true. And you can't get better at something if you don't put the work in. Mm-hmm. And if you put the work in, the end result will happen. It may take a little while, but nothing's hard in this world. It just takes time.
Yep. And practice.
Practice.
Yeah. Yeah.
It takes effort.
Yeah. I've got a kind of similar story that I heard is about Jim Thorpe, who's Native American from here in Oklahoma, Olympian football player, kind of at the beginning of all that. But, going to the Olympics, I can't remember where it was, but they had to ride a boat across the ocean. And he didn't train. All of other teammates were training, and they're kind of upset that he wasn't training. And he said, I've been running the race in my head over and over and over again. And he went and won a gold medal. And I mean, physiologically, that's probably not the right thing to do, is to sit there and think about it. But the fact that he was able to really see it, I mean, like really see it in his mind, he was better off than had he run the whole time.
It's a belief.
Yeah.
It's truly a belief. And if you believe in something, it'll happen. Your mind controls what you do. I mean, it just, you ever see a picture of somebody get a broken leg or a compound fracture and it's gruesome and your body gets chills?
Yeah.
You didn't feel any of that, but your body feels it.
Yeah.
Because of the signals that your brain tells you. And if you tell your brain that I'm going to succeed, I'm going to succeed, I'm going to succeed, it's eventually going to happen.
Yeah.
And if you doubt yourself all the time, then you're always going to be in doubt. Then you're never going to be able to get past that point of getting to the next level, because you're going to have doubt. Doubt kills more people than dreams.
Yeah.
So just it's a belief. It's just, but it's work.
Yeah.
You can't expect a great result if you don't put in the work.
Right.
So.
Yeah. Yeah, it's huge, man. One of the things that was thinking about today is I knew you were coming. So we parted ways in 2009. I had a wrist injury, and that wrist injury was really hard for me. I broke my femur in 2008. I really had, when I look back on it, that 2008 outdoor season, it seemed like a failure at the time because I hadn't won a race and all of that. But really, that was a really crazy successful amateur motocross series. I had several podiums, led a lot of laps. And outdoors is hard, man. Mm-hmm. I think I was a pretty gifted supercross rider. Just really, seem to be able to adapt quickly to that. Motocross is not something you just adapt to. I mean, it is like a mental tough. Your bike's got to be good. All these different aspects, and I did way better than I think I was giving myself any kind of credit at the time. But anyways, broke my femur at the end of that '08 season. We came back from that so fast. I mean, I think I was training again, like full speed, and like, which this is kind of normal, I guess. But 4 months, we were back at it. Race West Coast Supercross had just a bunch of weird stuff. I really let myself kind of struggle in that season. You know, I think 2008 Supercross was amazing for me, but I think it set an expectation that was really, really high, and anything under that was going to be really tough. I always tell people it was one of the best things and worst things that happened to me because, I mean, to be able to do that was unbelievable.
Well, it's only been done once before.
But I think in my mind, I thought that I needed to do that every time. And so in 2009, when I didn't, I really struggled with that. But we kind of gathered it back up for outdoors. We were then in the point hunt. I was riding really good, was on my way to my first outdoor win in High Point, and just had a big crash. And that was really gut-wrenching for me. And I think I let a lot of outside voices get into me about, we weren't cycling enough and doing all this and doing all that. And I think that's ultimately what probably led to me moving a different direction. Where do you think, had we gone back in time from that point, where was the next move right there? And maybe that's a loaded question because who knows, maybe thinking about the past for me, but where do you think the next move is at that point? If you continued to work together in 2009.
What do I believe?
Yeah.
I believe you would have a lot more championships if we worked together. I mean, I just do, because I knew you, I knew your effort. I'm not saying anything against the other guys that you worked with, but that's my belief.
Yeah.
I believe that, yes, the outside forces, people always like to talk and like to think, and that's the problem that happens with, whoever an athlete works with has a program that's successful, then let's keep running with it until we don't have success. And you were in the points.
Yeah.
You were, I think, second or third in points, and you were getting ready to win that race, hit a kicker, whatever, freak happened and broke the wrist. I mean, I just think it was your decision on what you needed to do going forward. And it was a good conversation that we had. And I actually said, well, I mean, I'm glad for you to be able to say, hey, I need to do something different. I need to figure something out. I need to kind of maybe go in a different direction. I think, as you just mentioned, I think a lot of that was from outside influences. And maybe they were right, maybe they were wrong. My belief is that we would have had more championships. That's selfish, whatever, but why would I ever doubt? If I'm going to doubt that we would have had success, what does that say to me as a coach leading you? I mean, every time we worked together, I believed you were going to win. Every single time. So what would make it different before the wrist break or after the wrist break? We would have come back, and just like your femur, come back as quickly as possible, as efficiently and as effectively as possible, stronger than ever, and move on and go win another title. That's my belief. I don't know. I've talked to a lot of other people too, and to be quite frank, they have that belief too. I don't know what your belief was. I have to believe that maybe you would have thought things may have been different if we stayed together and we continued to work. I don't know. That's not for me to decide. But what do I believe? I believe we would have won more titles. 100%.
I think, I got close to Chase Sexton. Or I'd say close. We worked together, right? And when he was kind of making that move, kind of my thought was, if that's going to sit in the back of your head, you gotta do it, And I think, maybe there was some doubt in that, maybe, I don't know. I haven't talked to him since, but at that level, but I mean, he's making another move now to apparently Kawasaki. So my whole thing is like, if that's going to sit in your mind the whole time, then you gotta see what it's about. But I think there wasn't enough confidence in myself to say, there's not some magical formula out there. And I think that I was probably searching for that. And what 90% of the people were doing in the sport was cycling. And we weren't really cycling that much, which is funny because it's gone away from that now. There's less of that. I think it's a combination of things. I don't look back at it and go like, oh man, I have a lot of regret, because I learned a lot through the whole process. And the cool thing is we've remained close the whole time, and you chirped in here and there, hey, this and that. And I appreciate our friendship so much because of that. And, I've always been interested in to know what you think, because it's a difficult thing. You get close with the people you work with, and we spend a lot of time together. So, it's tough, especially when you have that doubt. I wish that I could have looked back and realized that doubt's not always true, right? Our thoughts are not always true. And I wish I could have looked back at that moment and had a little more confidence in myself to say, no, I think one of the things that was going on was I broke my femur, and then now I had this wrist injury. So there was all this talk about, I was a risky rider, or I wasn't fit enough, or all this stuff. I wish I would have realized that motocross is a pretty dangerous sport, and you take chances, and you ride at a high level, chances are you're going to get hurt. So,
and I think outside influences don't know the exact situation that people are in, when they chime in, they're just saying things based on their perception of what they see. They have no intimate knowledge about what's happening behind the scenes.
Yep.
They see you at the races, or they talk to you here and there, or not you, but people in general.
Yep.
And they offer advice based on, well, that's what they're doing. Well, what they're doing doesn't work for everybody.
Yeah.
And the influences that happen, sometimes people let it, influence them, and they make major decisions off of it that turn out to be catastrophic. Not in your situation.
Yeah.
But what I'm saying is, like, understanding the full picture.
Yep.
There's always, we talked a little earlier about two sides to every story.
Yep.
But there's always an understanding or a lack of understanding of what's happening behind the scenes. And people like to chime in because everybody likes to talk, and everybody's an expert until it comes time for them to be an expert for themselves. So.
Yeah, for sure. I think one of the things that I learned from, actually, Timmy Ferry had mentioned this to me, was you need to pick 3 people that you listen to, and the rest of them, they can chime in, they can have their opinion, but what they say doesn't matter. And I think that's really sound advice, because, like you're saying, you're going to hear a lot from a lot of different people, especially at a high level in athletics. But you got to really pick those few people and rely on them heavily.
It's a trust factor that develops over time.
Yeah.
And that's something that needs to be fostered. That's something that needs to be understood. And not only getting to know or understanding it from you, but again, with me, I knew your mom. We talked a lot, knowing about who you were and what got you to that point. And I think that's where a lot of coaches miss, is not really figuring out the whole environment of the athlete, what their childhood is, where they're in, what the relationship between outside sources are, what the relationship to family is, brothers, sisters, so on and so forth, things like that.
Yeah.
Because I'm still really close with both of your brothers and your mom. I still chat with her every once in a while via message or whatever, or something like that. So, it was a great time.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think that's one thing that I look back on. I mean, just even stories like the, being at Johnny Murphy's house, like those are really special times. And I think, when you're finding a coach, that's something that's really important. It's not just the guy that's going to, get you fit or whatever. Right. It's the guy that's going to be talking to you 15 years later, which is huge,
and having the option to do that with you or with someone is important.
Yeah. Which I think it's a testament to yourself, and I appreciate it. Yeah. So this next part, I guess just where you're at now. Explain to us X3, the gym. I mean, it's crazy. I mean, the guys you're throwing out of this place is pretty wild.
Yeah, we have a pretty high level performance training center. It's about 20,000 square feet. There's 3 locations actually. We have Fort Myers, Orlando, and Nashville, with an ownership group that allows us to do what we do. This past year alone, we put 103 new guys in the NFL. So football is a very heavy part of what we do at X3. But we do all sports. We have Olympians, we have baseball players, we do physical therapy, we do massage therapy, so on and so forth. But it's helped me. Your going through with you has helped me navigate more on the professional level, because most of our guys that we see now are elite level athletes. Yeah, we do a lot of general pop. We do a lot of regular, one-on-one and high school athletes and youth athletes and things like that. But with X3, it's a very high level performance center. Nashville, Orlando, which was a new location for us that just went in about a year ago. And Fort Myers has been there. We put that up in 2021, 22. And we're kind of known for football athletes. So that's kind of where we're at.
Yeah. I helped Jackson one time. You had a program written out for him. I went to the gym for him. He was maxing out or something. You're like, hey, he was like, hey, come spot me. I'm like, dude, you're squatting like 500 pounds. What am I going to do if you're in trouble? It's wild to see the power of these guys.
The athlete, as I said before, like a 6'5", 300-pound lineman with the explosiveness and the agility of 180-pound, cornerback is amazing.
Yeah,
is amazing. And we do our NFL Combine training January and February, getting guys ready for the NFL Combine and their pro day. That's a heavy portion of our workload for 2.5, 3 months. They're there from 6 o'clock in the morning, basically, until 4 o'clock in the afternoon. Certain days are more geared towards strength and speed and so on and so forth. But they're there breakfast, lunch, and dinner. They're there doing physical therapy. They're there doing recovery. So a typical Monday would be they'll get there, they'll have breakfast. After that, they'll do their speed work, and then they'll do physical therapy or recovery. We have a recovery room with cold tub, infrared sauna, Normatec boots, compression. So they'll do all of that in their downtime, then have lunch, and then their weight session is in the afternoon. And then after that, some may stay for some skill work. On a couple of the other days, that's kind of combined a little bit. Then we also have one day where it's just field work for them, just position work out at the football field. And then one day is just primarily like a recovery day. They'll come in, they'll do yoga and massage and physical therapy like middle of the week to get them ready. And our objective for that is just to prepare them for the NFL Combine or their pro day. It's not a season-long strength and conditioning program. It's a targeted approach to what exactly we have to do. We know the tests that they're going to do at the Combine. We know their deficiencies, because when they come in, we do a full assessment, joint by joint assessment. They meet with physical therapists, so on and so forth. And from there, we design a protocol for that individual if they have an asymmetry or a dysfunction in a joint, or they're coming off an injury from school, or they played in the Hula Bowl and all of a sudden they tore a hamstring or they strained the hamstring. Then their program obviously gets modified or so on and so forth. But it's always a targeted approach. Just let us go back to what was our objective. Every workout had a program, had a goal, had an objective. Whether it was conditioning or whether it was in the weight room. For these guys, our objective is to make sure when they go to the Combine or they get ready for their pro day, they're going to test as well as they possibly can. And we've had a lot of success with it. Over the past 5 years, we probably have, I think as of our last count, we had 10% last year, 10% of all rookies in the NFL.
No way.
We trained.
Wow.
And 5% of all active rosters in the NFL have come through our doors.
Wow.
So pretty happy with what we're doing with all the coaches and the ownership group at X3 at all 3 locations.
Yeah.
So it's a great environment, and the intensity that these guys have in the weight room and on the field is phenomenal. It's second to none. And I tell all my high school kids and youth kids to come in just to watch them train. Just to watch them train.
Man, there's a place called Pitching Works that I have done some physical therapy at.
Right.
It's Physio Works is where I go, and it's MLB pitchers. I love like going there and just watching. I mean, it's just cool. You know, I've been around the elite side of motocross, but it's just really cool to see the other side of that. You know, the MLB. You know, to see a baseball thrown at 100 miles an hour is just.
We have a couple guys that come in for rehab and Tommy John surgery. Chris Mazza was from the Rays, and Josh James with the Astros, and so on. And to see them 20 feet away throwing 90 plus miles an hour, you can't even see the ball.
No, it's
you just hear it.
Yeah.
And
whack.
Yeah. And to get hit by that thing is not fun.
Yeah.
I mean, I can't imagine getting hit by a 95 mile an hour ball.
I feel bad for the guy that catches all day long. His hand, he's got to go home at the end of the week and be like, man, I got to find a different job.
It's pretty intense.
Yep.
It's pretty intense.
Yep.
And then but every professional athlete, that intensity level is what I'm talking about is there.
Yeah.
And that's a learned behavior,
Yep.
and that's just part of the norm. They don't go into a workout or to a pitching session just to kind of like exercise.
Yeah.
It's not recreational activity.
Yep.
There's a purpose
Yep.
behind what they do.
Yep. Yeah. Oh, that's cool, man.
Yeah. You got to come down. See?
I need to come get worked on. My physical activity is taking the back seat with kids and travel and stuff. But I just do what I enjoy now, I think. But I am interested. I go getting diagnosed as far as all my limitations, just because the years of just getting beat up. So
yeah, come on. I mean, you know, you're always invited.
Yeah.
But our physical therapists, Dr. Cupper and Dr. Orlando, that we have down there are second to none. I'll put any of my athletes through them, and they will hopefully make sure that you don't have anything going on. But if they do, we're definitely going to have something that we're going to fix.
Yep.
But everybody goes through. We go joint by joint, go through range of motion, have all the equipment to test it. So it's not like they're just. We do apply science. It's not just their opinion.
Yeah.
There's machines.
Hey, your hamstrings looks a little weird. Let me rub that real quick.
There's a lot of equipment that's available nowadays that we didn't have back then. That provides data, and when we have that data, we can measure it, and then we can improve upon it. We can retest, check it again, retest, and check it again, and then there's always a protocol that we look at, whether it's Tommy John surgery or an ACL or whether it's an ankle. There's a baseline protocol that we follow, but we may accelerate it.
Yep.
But we stick to the science. Like we know that like science tells us that tissue A takes this much time to heal, or whatever the injury may be. There's science that says this is generally the norm.
Yep.
There's no shortcuts with it.
Yep.
It may not be 100%, or it may, and the limitations that you do at that point would restrict certain exercises or certain movements. But again, it's all basically science driven on our analysis and our feedback and the data and what our program is based on the individual.
Yep. So if we got guys watching this, they want to check you out, where do they find you?
They can just go to basically gregdirenzo.com or get in touch with you. I do a lot of work with Greg Albertson at Game Moto. A lot of his athletes I'm here in Oklahoma helping those guys. We have 4 weeks till Loretta's.
Is that it?
Yeah. 4 weeks from Monday is Loretta's. So yeah, really kind of crunch time.
Yeah, I don't know when this will come out, maybe in 2 weeks before or something. That's so wild. Yeah.
It's coming up.
Yeah.
But what we're doing with them is, again, applying the science. With them, obviously they're doing their workouts, they're doing their conditioning. But what I'm trying to bring into the sport is more science. Mm-hmm. We're using respiratory trainers to help build lung capacity and teach the guys how to breathe, just so they don't hyperventilate, so they can maintain a normal breathing pattern, how to learn how to expand their diaphragm, and actually go through coordination drills for breathing, also power drills for breathing. So we're using devices for helping their respiratory system develop.
Yep. That out breath is important, huh?
It's so important. It's the controllable.
Yeah.
It's the controllable. And most people don't breathe correctly. and it actually hurts their performance when they could go so much longer and so much farther.
Yep.
We're doing hydration biosensor testing.
Yep.
Guys are wearing a patch so I can identify what their sweat loss is per hour, how many milligrams of sodium they've lost, what their electrolyte loss is, and then design a protocol for hydration. And for Loretta's, for example, what we're going to do is I know that practice is on Monday, and when the race schedule comes out, if you're riding 2 classes, you're going to have 1 race on one day, probably 2, and so on and so forth. And then what we're going to do is put a hydration schedule together for the entire week.
Yep.
Not just, I'm thirsty, let me take a drink.
I think I drank a little bit. Yeah.
Or overload on Pedialyte.
Yeah.
Or overload on electrolyte drinks. So there's that balance. And my goal is to just take the guesswork out of it.
Yep.
Let's use data, and let's apply that data and take the guesswork out of it.
Yep.
And a couple other things that we're doing. We're testing we're utilizing a concussion informative tool that will go on the goggle strap that will measure triaxial rotation impacts on the head, but it also measures an initial impact. And it also measures the G-forces that your head goes through and gives you a cumulative total of what those G-forces are. And based on the individual, when that number hits a certain number, there's an indicator that, hey, we want to take a look at something.
Yep.
We want to say, okay, let's back it down for a day until things calm down.
Yep.
And that's new that we're just testing. We've just put that into effect. The guys over there are the first ones in the U.S. that are testing it.
Yep.
Beckham Smith is the first one to put it on it, to use it this week. So, and then we're providing that data and we're sending it back to Europe with this company that we're working with over there. So just really trying to apply science overall and keep kids healthy.
Yep. Because
you could be the fastest kid in the world or the strongest kid in the world, and if you're not healthy and your brain hurts, or if you're dehydrated, you're not going to perform well. And educating the kids is what I want to do, is really give them that education so they can take it when and if they train with me or not, just continue to move down the road with it.
Yep. Do you see a big range of electrolyte loss on people?
Everybody's different with physiology. So people sweat at a different rate.
I sweat a lot.
You sweat a lot. Not as much as Jimmy. Jimmy with the elephant moans sweated the most. But everybody's a little bit different. But what this does, it gives me real numbers.
Yeah.
It gives me real data. And that patch and the biosensor that they wear, it collects all that. And it puts it into the system. And then based off of whatever electrolyte supplement they're using, whether it's a Hammer Nutrition Heat or whether it's Element or whether it's Liquid IV or whether it's a First Form, hydration sticks, then it's programmed based off of that. And some of the hydration packets are, let's just call it 150 milligrams of whatever, but their hydration loss may only require them to take in 100.
Right.
So we're not going to overload them.
Yep.
And we're going to try to manage that effectively and efficiently so they have enough in the tank and then refuel at the end.
Yep. So. Yeah. It was always interesting to me growing up. You'd see the guys with a gallon full of like Cytomax just chugging.
And they're just, it tastes good. It tastes better than water. But what's the effectiveness? It's better than being dehydrated, but you're going to pee out a lot of electrolytes a lot quicker. You kind of just get rid of them. So.
Well, thanks, man. I appreciate you coming. It's good to see you.
Yeah, good to see you as well.
Glad my kids got to meet you.
Yeah.
Kind of crazy.
Yeah, definitely excited to be here. And I appreciate everything that we've been through. And I appreciate your words here about our relationship. And I appreciate, the history that we've had. And I still say that we would have won more championships. 100%.
I love it, man. I love it. And if you're listening, sorry for the storms. We got some storms rolling in. I'm not sure how much the audio picked up. Sound like a little bit, but...
A little bit.
Yeah. I'm sure you enjoyed it anyway. It is going to be the best podcast I've done.
It would have been better if I brought you some tiramisu.
I love tiramisu. I'm trying to watch it though, man. I got the genetics that don't do well if I was going to bring
tiramisu with a side of pile of meat.
Pile of meat, man. That's a whole nother podcast right there.
That's a whole podcast.
Yeah.
That was
beef.
Good though. That was good.
I mean, to you, it was good. The corn on top was really
and the salsa.
The salsa, that probably did it. Yeah.
Okay. I'm going to go get pizza next.
Thanks, man.
Thanks, buddy.
Appreciate it.
All right.